Today on The Outdated Musician, 5 albums you should listen to all the way through. Hey everybody, my name is Sean, and I am The Outdated Musician. And that's exactly what I am, is outdated. I'm an old guy now. Spent a lot of years had the opportunities to do a lot of really cool stuff behind the scenes in music production. Played in a couple bands, even had a chance to do some of that tour life. But what has really inspired this and this video altogether is the other day I was on a subreddit, and the question was from a younger person asking, how do you listen to albums? It was a subreddit for vinyl, and someone asked, well, how do you listen to a whole album? And it really got me thinking, like, why, how would you, like, that's such an easy question, but it got me thinking because I have a youngster myself, and music nowadays, just the way that it's put out there, the services and how you absorb it, and everything's streamed nowadays, that I don't think a lot of people actually listen to albums, nor do I think that the artists necessarily record the collection of songs to be an album, to tell a story, do anything. So these are just 5 albums that I've fallen in love to, and in fact, none of them are my favorite bands or favorite artists. I just love music. My whole family, we love music. My wife and I, we've been together 22 years and met at an Allman Brothers show. So music's always been a part of my life. A portion of my life, I made a living doing it. So these are just 5 albums that, in no particular order. There's no number 5 down the countdown, number 1, no particular order. It's just 5 albums that I really enjoy listening to, putting on, and listening to from beginning to end. And there are just some classic albums out there. So, don't shy away. I know it might seem foreign for some younger folks to think that, how do you, listen to an album all the way through, but there's some really good ones out there that were meant to be listened from the first song to the end one. So let's jump right in. The first one, we have Fire on the Mountain. This is the Charlie Daniels Band. So this was Charlie Daniels' 5th album, but it was the second one by the Charlie Daniels Band. And this was released in 1974. And I believe it was later released a couple years later as well under a new label. Man, this album just, I kind of, think that the first side is like, hey, we're going to do kind of a little bit more traditional type country type stuff and studio stuff on side A. Man, you get into side B there, man, you start getting some of that live stuff, and it's almost like, man, country meets jam music in a sense, but man, it's just an awesome album all the way through. Some big hits on there. I mean, Trudy is on there. Long Hair Country Boy is on there. Just a killer album, and you check it out. Like, if you've never actually sat down, you may have heard, like I say, Long Hair Country Boy. That was a hit, and you might be familiar with this song. Well, go back and listen to that entire album. You won't be disappointed with Fire on the Mountain. And the next one, man, Deja Vu. This is by Crosby, Still, Nash and Young, and this was released in 1970. I believe it was March 11th in 1970. And man, the harmonies and just the storytelling. And I love an album that has storytelling, but man, everything in there had emotion. All the songs that are on that album really, really, I mean, if you listen to the lyrics on some of those songs and the harmonies that they put those to, you really need to check out Deja Vu. And I would actually say, if I was going to list them in a particular order, Deja Vu would be pretty close to that number 1 spot for one of my favorite all time albums. And then the next one is Moondance. That album's actually called Van Morrison Moondance by Van Morrison. And this was also released in 1970. This was in January of 1970. Man, you talk about emotion, and from song to song, again, this is one of those that Moondance, this album might actually, compete pretty hard with Deja Vu if it was ranked in a particular order. Just an album, like I say, sit down and listen to it all the way through. The next album, this is from someone who's actually a lot more current in today's time, and this is Brent Cobb. And the album is Providence Canyon. This was released in 2018, and actually, when this album was released, I actually think, now in 2026, he's probably more popular. I've seen him in concert several times, and around that 2018 time, those concerts were just him and a guitar. And now you go see him, he's playing with a full band, and he's part of that whole Dave Cobb group out of Nashville. But he's been writing songs since he was 16 years old, or maybe even younger. But man, you want to talk about this album, you need to listen to it, because this is a songwriter. And when I say that, a lot of times you think of bands and they create. So this dude is a songwriter. He's written for a lot of people. There's a lot of songs out there that you just don't realize that he may have had his hand on in some way. So, man, just a true, I would say, we talk about great songwriters. If we were going to do a list of great songwriters, he would have to be one of today's younger songwriters that you would really have to consider putting on the list. So check out that album, Brent Cobb. It's Providence Canyon. And then this last album, man, I've gotten a few speeding tickets with this last album. Man, this album just fires me up. We're talking about Rage Against the Machine by Rage Against the Machine, and this was released in 1992. Man, you talk about if you want to get hyped up, if you want to, you know, if you're an athlete or something like that and you got a game, throw in some Rage Against the Machine, you will get fired up, and this album will get you fired up. It's part of my, as an old person, so I was, to kind of put it in there, I was in high school when this album came out, and just for me, this was something that's always stuck around. In this album, I could kind of forget about Rage Against the Machine and come across and hear one of their songs and like, okay, now I got to go back and listen to that album again. It is just fire. You need to check it out. And that's just the self-titled 1992. So the album's Rage Against the Machine, Rage Against the Machine. So these are just 5 albums that I recommend to, because there's so many great ones. And I would love it if y'all would, in the comments, let me know what albums you like to listen all the way through. I'm just a music fan. I don't believe that, I'm not one of these genre guys that, I'm into this, or I'm into anything. If it sounds good, it sounds good, So, I don't care if it's, what it is. If it's good and it's an album and you recommend it, leave it in the comments below, because I want to go check those out, and I will go check those out. So, hey, I appreciate y'all checking this video out. Until next time.